Welcome to the Live Wildly podcast, a space where we explore how to live our wildest expressions while nourishing our hearts. Here we come together to share about our life paths, authentic expressions, and heart's wisdom with one another. We cover all things motherhood, spirituality, adventure, health and wellness, and more. I'm your host, Olivia Ashley, a mama, intuitive, and seeker of a joyful, inspired life. Let's dare to live wildly together. Hello there, it's Olivia Ashley, the host of Live Wildly, and we're back for another week. So there has been so much coming up, I feel like, in the collective, energetically, within my own life around releasing our old self, releasing pieces of our old self that no longer are really fitting. I was just looking at Natalie Miles, the Intuitive's energy theme for December, and it was kind of like end game. So what pieces are needing to end, but also then beginning for this new game, right? What is coming forward? And everything we're doing now in this moment is setting us up for that future piece and for that thing we're creating or aspiring to. And so that is the theme, and I'm feeling that immensely as I'm doing a lot of internal discovery, uncovering, bubbling up of different emotions and different things. And I'm really just getting this full pull towards one, clarifying like who I am, what do I want to move forward with, and also really igniting this sense of self into my new self, into this huge new theme and new chapter that I'm walking forward through. This last decade was just insane. I mean, my whole life, it almost feels like it's a different person that I was, and I truly was a different person and beliefs and all the things, but it's moving me towards this next new beginning. And with that comes a lot of needing to trust, to settle into myself, to really claim what I want. And a lot of that is around self-worth, around getting clear, but it's for me, it's me. My mental state can sometimes just throw me. I don't do things, I avoid things or procrastinate because I get scared or I don't feel worthy or whatever that is. And I'm so curious if some of you all listening are also moving through this and what has been coming up for you. And today's episode is, I think, going to be right spot on to help give some ignition, some gas to the car, right? To get us in the right mind frame, to get us back into our hearts, because a lot of it comes to trust, comes to acknowledging and knowing what you want and what you desire. You need to know what you want to be able to really go for what you want. And that takes time and effort, and also your mental state, how you show up in the day. So today's episode is with an old friend, Megan Bello, who is a broker owner of a real estate team. She owns Motion Homes Group, which is, again, a real estate broker company that she leads. And she's been doing this successfully for 9 years, which blows my mind. I'm so impressed by her. I know her from high school, so you'll hear that right as we jump in, but I didn't really know her. And even now, it was one of those things where, you meet someone when you're young, you connect on social media, and then you just watch their lives. And she came back into my sphere, and I'm excited to have her here and sharing all the things that she has, because she's an entrepreneur. She's about to be a mother of 2 in the next year, and she is walking her path, and she's doing it with fire and heart and desire, and also just openness. So you're going to hear about her path, her journey, how she's moved through some divorces and burnt her life down, but also has been working and then rebuilt to the life that she has now, where she's homesteading, she's a mother, she's navigating her own business, and the life that she really dreams. And so we talk about what it took to get her here. Was she always an entrepreneur? What that journey has been, how she's always had an affinity to sales and selling and people and relationships in that way. And then also really go deeper into her habits, what she does every day to help get in the right mindset, the books that she reads, the time that she takes, how she is really paving her own path, especially now as a young mother in this culture and society and industry that really wants you to separate professional from mother from professional. And she's like, no, I want my kids home. I want my kids with me. They're going to come with me to my client calls, and also just learning to delegate and slow down and navigate it, and note that we're all on our own timing and we're all on our own in our own seasons. And so trusting that and not being afraid. So with that trust that I talked about at the very beginning, we have to also be willing to face fears. And Megan has done this time and time again and seen results and seen her life change, and seen that the power is really in her hands. And I think that is what I'm excited to share about her and her story. And this episode is, again, it's another story in human who's out there paving the path, living from their heart, choosing what they want, and living wildly in this alternative, different manner, but also very mainstream. So integrating the two. I think Live Wildly podcast is really touching this place of unbounding from the restrictions and from the things and beliefs and the systems that we have been shown in society. And knowing that when I look around, most people are very sick, unhealthy, don't feel good. We're all trying. And I don't want to start by saying that and saying that like they're doing that to themselves. Our system is not doing well. And thus, us who are coming into it and being raised in it and a part of it are having and seeing a lot of these effects. But many of us don't realize that. It's a slow unraveling. But if you're here, you're in this process. Maybe you've been unbounding, or you're deep, or you're just starting, and showcase other people who are walking with their word, walking with their heart, and trying something different, because I think that's what's going to move us forward into this next chapter of collective creation and humanity on earth. Is change is coming. Change is coming. And are you ready? Are you ready to calm, to settle into yourself, to embody who you are and face the change? Because everyone's wave's going to be a little bit different, how we get hit, what is affected. And I want to say some of this will be very hard, and yet there's a lot of beauty and ability to step forward, to help, to create a life that we really want within whatever this new system and this new earth is going to be like, because I feel it and it's anchoring and it's coming. And so that is kind of the container I want to set you with of there's big things in the collective. There are big things in each of us individually in our lives and a part of our families. And yet it all starts with you. You are the master of your life. You are the creator of your life, the creatrix, the mother, that womb power that you hold as a woman and as a man, that solar power, your solar plexus, that push and the drive and the linear and all of that type of thinking. You know what I'm getting at. But we need to have this balance between masculine and feminine and heart and mind. And I think Megan just is a really beautiful representation of one path of that and what that looks like for her. So I hope you enjoy this episode and you learn a few things. And I hope that you continue to find your expression of living wildly. This podcast is here to help you hear other voices, learn other things, find tools to help support you and your heart from my experience, from others' experiences, and really just piecing together and weaving together your life in the web of this matrix of human and earth and the multidimensionality that we are. And I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, and yet this is what's on my heart. This is where I'm at. So enjoy this episode. If you get something out of it, please let us know, share with a friend, and I'd love to hear from you. And I hope that you are finding the joy, the centeredness, the calmness amidst the heaviness, the chaos, the pushing of life and all that it is right now. And note that you are strong and you are doing amazing things and you are capable and I got you. So tune in, keep listening, and I'm wishing you all the best. Continue to be wild. Hello, Megan, and welcome to Live Wildly. I'm so excited to have you here. And for all you listeners, this is really interesting because Megan and I went to high school together. I was a senior, and I believe you were a freshman, is how we crossed paths. And so we had a very short time coming into each other's lives. I wouldn't say we were like great friends. We were aware of each other and we went about our lives. And I just shared with Megan while I was figuring out who should come on the podcast. I like to do this intuitive sense of, who's coming into my sphere. And I had this really strong dream where Megan's name shone out on this plaque in a dream of mine. And I just went, oh, okay, there's something here. There's something to reach out. And I've been following Megan for a long time of just watching her life unfold and all the journeys she has taken. And it made sense that she is the perfect person to have on. So you all are in for a treat that I get to catch up with Megan and you all get to catch up and learn about Megan during this conversation. So Megan, again, welcome. And to start us off, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe how you grew up, what you do, and anything you'd like to share before we jump kind of to this part in life and into all the things you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. It was great to hear from you. And yeah, we connected, I think, on social media when we were freshman and senior. And it's
Yes.
just been like that ever since. And I don't remember what class we were in, but it was obviously something like an elective that you needed because I think because you were on the way out and I had been homeschooled before I had come there. So I was very like
Yes.
being in a high school was kind of cool with like lockers and things. So but yeah, I'm Megan. I'm the oldest of five. I have a real estate company based out of Colorado for going on 9 years. Like I said, I went to a lot of different schools. I was homeschooled, private school, public school. And so I think the school hopping kind of gave me a unique sort of perspective on things a little bit. Yeah, I live in the middle of the San Luis Valley, which is pretty rural Colorado, with 15 goats and like 150 chickens, ducks, and turkeys, and my daughter and my husband. And I'm expecting a son in April.
That's wonderful. Wow, Megan, you've done so much. And what has kind of that like post high school to having a homestead, having your business? I mean, you've been doing your business 9 years. That's amazing. You're so young too. I think that is what floors my mind. What has this kind of journey been like between, if you could just like summarize a theme even of finding yourself and getting that underway?
I think I was telling my husband yesterday, I think my perspective came from being an adult pretty early. I didn't after high school, I didn't want to go to college. I had no desire for college. I wanted to open my own business, and sales was kind of my thing. So I got my first commission sales job under the table at 15, my first official at 18, selling hair straighteners at a mall kiosk. And so I always kind of saw that as like if I was connecting with people, that was kind of like the main thing to do. Like I said, I graduated high school. I didn't end up graduating from the high school we met at. I moved to South Dakota briefly and graduated there a year and a half early. And then when I moved home at 17, I started, like I said, to sort of be in sales. So I think having such an intensity in like connecting with people for like a job really kind of I don't have any fear of talking to people, and I never really did. Like because I didn't have a college degree, I felt like there was opportunity in situations where people wouldn't have felt like it was opportunity. Like a sales job, cold calling, most people would be like, I hate that. But to me, if I needed a degree and I was able to get that job without having a degree, who cares what it was? Who cares if I was cold calling? Like, it's just kind of part of the deal. So yeah, I think there's been a lot of shift since high school. My mindset when I was younger and in high school was I really did want to grow up and I really wanted to become an adult. And I felt like I had to like race to that. While as I've shifted now, because I'll be turning 30 in January, I am now realizing that, and it's so cliche, but it's the journey that's it's all about, right? Like it's the building, it's the creating, it's the beginning, it's the the pieces where you're like, oh, I just want to get this done, or this is what needs to happen. Or it's as you sort of create those things that is where the beauty and the magic and everything sort of is. So yeah.
Yeah, it really is that magic in the mundane. I've loved to say and have come to learn of. It's been like a last year or two, and I'm only 31, Megan. So you're actually not too far. I'm like, how, I don't know how those 4 years were between us, but I homeschool all the things, I'm guessing. And you were just, I feel like you're just on a fast track of life. But I'm curious, do you know your like sun sign and or human design? Because you just have that energy and that go.
I was born January 2nd, so I've been told I was a Capricorn. I know the
Yeah.
Enneagram. That's my go-to. So I'm a 7 wing 8. Um,
Okay.
so I want to avoid pain, and but I also have I don't want to be controlled. So entrepreneurship was sort of the only option for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the Capricorn too. So I have like a Capricorn North node. So that's what I'm here to
Okay.
learn, which is that doing, that the work, how do we show up in the external world and that drive. And I feel like I'm the opposite in a way of I was like, how can I hide? How can I escape from this reality? How can I not be here, even though I have all this power and creativity inside, but I dampened it? So like, and you did the opposite because I had that rebellious nature too, but it came out in other ways. And you just like dove in and you've modeled too, right? Like you have a pretty consistent modeling career as well, which always amazed me.
I got signed when I was 17 with an agency here in Denver, Donna Baldwin. My husband signed there too, but he did some modeling before when he was younger, before we met. It's Colorado, so I have not made any significant financial strides with it, but I have met awesome people. I have done cool things. I have beautiful family photos. And I can help support other local photographers. I like to meet new photographers, and they're like, I'm building my book, and I like to help them and kind of help get traction with their business too. So yeah, it was a lot more fun. You kind of I'm in sort of a weird gap. Like I will probably get more jobs should I stay in it when I'm older, when I have like gray hair and that sort of thing. And then kind of that 22 and younger is when you kind of get into the high fashion scene. So I'm kind of old for the cool stuff that I did when I was younger, but I did do that, which was awesome because a sales job kind of gives you the opportunity to, because you can tell whoever you're working for, like, I've brought you sales and I'm taking some time off now to do this and I'll be back.
Oh, I love that. That's really fun. And so, on this entrepreneur journey of yours, what has really this path been like? I mean, has been, I guess, maybe some of the challenges and what you've had to work through, and how have you remained steadfast on it and felt like, yes, this still makes sense. This is doing well. I want to continue with it. I'm just curious because I know very few entrepreneurs, if I'm honest. I think I see them out there, but in my immediate world, there aren't that many that just actually like can show up and continuously do it and have that mindset. And I almost wonder if maybe not going to college and or having, I mean, you had a sales job, but it was always, again, you driven. Whereas I think some of us, like myself, I've been in the cog and the machine and told what to do. And so I have that hard time being accountable for myself and showing up and making it happen. So can you just share a bit about your pursuit and how you've shown up and continued to move forward within this realm?
Yeah, I think it is that the self-driven employment from a young age. I really wanted to make money and move out and be on my own. So money was a huge factor there. And I didn't I didn't, I would have some good bosses. I had some horrible bosses. I worked at a shipping company, a third party shipping company, and the people with college degrees weren't real happy that an 18-year-old got hired there. And I just sort of always was like, well, if this won't work, then I'll make something that will work. Like I've always been very sort of blinder focused. Like maybe my drove my mom nuts growing up. Like this is what I want and this is what I'm going to get. And it doesn't really matter how many things kind of, stood up in my way. And I just, well, I got to get a job. Okay, I'll get a job. You don't have this job. Okay, I'll get another job. Once I sort of got into real estate and started like looking around and seeing it, and like you said too, sort of like the cog in the machine, I think our systems and our schooling and our how we have our life set up at this time in our world, because we didn't always live like this, isn't conducive to life and isn't conducive to how you want to be. And I just really remember every single person who's been filled with regret and talked to me about, oh, I wish I did this, or I missed time with my kids. Because when you're in sales really young and you're talking to people and you're building rapport with a CEO of a company or an office manager, like you talk to people about their lives. And I was always just of the belief that if I am in control of the LLC and I'm in control of the taxes and I can do my write-offs, if I can just learn the system enough to, I can learn the system enough to get what I want instead of being part of the system and just accepting it. And that was, I transitioned into real estate. I always did want to be in real estate. I have a little business card from when I was 12 and a half, with my little picture on it. That
Oh
was,
my gosh.
so I did want to be in real estate, but when I was 20, I was like, okay, that's the small business I want to have, because it was, pretty. I like real estate because it's very low to get in. Like, everybody's 8 weeks and $2,000 from a real estate license. Like, that's not a lot. That's, I mean, and it's different in like a cosmetology license or a license where you're doing some sort of physical work that requires you to actually be there. Like a real estate license is, in my opinion, one of the biggest pieces of leverage you can have in this system to have freedom, right? Because you can sell residential, you can sell commercial, you can sell businesses, you can focus on rentals, you can, like, there's so many things you can do with that. So I just was always sort of searching for what was going to give me the freedom, and then just not accepting things that didn't. And like I said, I'm not sure if that was because I went to schools or because of who I am, or
Mm-hmm.
probably a lot of those things. And a lot of it too was running from stuff that I probably, like, a lot of it was probably not driven by the best of intentions, right? Like a lot of it, I probably was, maybe I should have been so rebellious in other ways, right? Like you can definitely say those things, but I just, every time I get back into the moment and focus on what's important in my life, it always makes more sense to use the energy for what I have for this vision I have going, versus using that energy for Keller Williams or Remax or Team or something like that. And even now that I'm in the managing broker space of helping agents create their businesses, it just wouldn't make sense to me to ever go to a big brokerage and be their managing broker and recruit for them, because I don't believe we need the system. Like that's kind of I don't think we need the system. Is there as where we live and what we need to do. We need to have the currency. We need to drive a car. Like there are things we need to do, but we don't need to subject to it, because we're meant for more, and we have natural desires, and you know what I mean? We don't have to fall for the people who just want us to just sort of do whatever they want
Yes.
and go back.
I can completely understand and get what you're saying at. And it is, I feel like the system is a guidepost, but we all get kind of stuck there. I think we all have that moment of, okay, but it's safe, or it's said it's safe. And I'm doing quotation marks in the air, and that this feels good and this will get you what you want. Right. And then a lot of us walk through it. A lot of us didn't have the courage to even try something different. And then we get to that side, like you were saying, of like, you listen to people's lives and their stories, and more around me, it's just unhappiness. It's sadness. It's this deep rootedness of suffering that, yeah, we can mask and keep above and try to do our best. But I'm so deep in this. No, you need to fall apart now. Like if this is what you're facing and you are still struggling with this, something's not right. And so I think that's what you're kind of showing is you knew that from the get-go. And I think a lot of us do, but you utilize the system to your benefit. And that's what I'm starting to learn and wanting to learn more about, especially in real estate, of just like, how can one grow investments and have true financial abundance and freedom? Because then that allows so much more time and creativity and space for your life. So as you've walked this path, I'm sure you face lots of skepticism or criticism. How have you continued to stay true to your authentic self in the face of this? Is it helps to have your own LLC and run it, kind of what you said, or what and how do you stay true to yourself? And like, what is your North Star, your guiding post?
I write down my 10 goals every day. I have a journal that I write 5 gratitudes and I do 10 goals. And that is always, those 10 are always what I'm working on. So how many agents I want to add, my income goals, those sort of keep me on topic for what I want to do. And now, I mean, in hindsight, I believe everything happened for a reason. It was all part of a plan. But when I first got into real estate, I realized that there was parts of me that were sort of running from, and there was like these people pleasing tendencies and things that maybe weren't so good that were still in tremendous fuel for real estate, right? Like I think people get really successful in business and in entrepreneurship, and you have a lot of different gas pedals forcing you to do things and what you want to desire and things. And I was in a relationship that in a marriage that I wasn't really, I never had any like expectations for love, right? So I just kind of like married the person I was with. And I was selling a lot of real estate, and people were like, "Oh my God, you're selling so much real estate." And like, I felt so like empty and like nothing, like I was drinking every day. I was smoking cigarettes all the time. Like, and what was funny was I was still making money because when you're at the bar hanging out with people, like you're connecting. And, so it's easy to sort of like put these things up as like proof that you're okay. But once you sort of realize like I'm not, and like the whole falling apart, I mean, I went from top producer. I had a house, and like everybody, I had just been gotten married. It was like a year into my marriage. I was like, I'm done. And I walked away and I burned it all to the ground. And it was so painful and so hard. And I got into another relationship that was even worse. And like it, like I'm so thankful for that now though. And it's interesting because I was like, okay, I'm no longer gonna like put myself in these situations. Like I had my managing broker, I went into his office one time and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna meet with these people because they keep wanting to meet with me. He's like, why are you meeting with them if you don't want to meet with them? I was like, oh, well, they're asking. There was a lot of I owe people something. And I've sort of worked the last 4 years on like, I don't, I know what I'm doing. I'm here for a reason. I truly do believe that I have a purpose, and I need to be here for agents who feel like they want to get away from the corporateness of the industry, and to really have a good solid look on creating a business for who they are versus trying to make them fit into the system that's already there. These big companies, if you make 1,000 phone calls, you do this, you do that. Of course, if you make 1,000 phone calls, you're going to make money. Yes, if you show up around a bunch of people, you're going to catch on to the energy. There is the power of the mastermind. Like these big companies are utilizing it, but they're utilizing it to put themselves forward. And I wanted to create a place that was help the agents go forward the way they want to. You don't go into Keller Williams' office and they're like, well, start a group. They're like, call FSBOs, call expireds, do your Facebook marketing. And versus when you come to me as your new agent, I'm like, what do you love? What is your desire? Like, where do you connect with people the most? And that's where we build your business. If you're a dog person, create weekly dog walks in the neighborhood and be there and bring treats to your shelters and get known and build community and connection where your desires already lie. Don't fit yourself into a box for this big machine that need you. They'll find another person to do that. I think Napoleon Hill is who says that only 2% of the world and of people really can achieve happiness. And because it's hard. I mean, oh my God, when I burned my life down, nobody was happy with me. Nobody thought I was doing a good idea. Nobody thought it was a good decision. Everybody thought I'd done lost my mind. Everybody was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But I would never, ever want to wake up another second in 2018. Like, I love this, even though there are other issues and other fires and other things have come up. My life is now designed to be the way that I work the best. And that's how people work. If people are in a situation that is really like based on what they desire, then they thrive. They absolutely do. I mean, you don't have to go very far to look up articles, or Simon Sinek will talk about it, and all these big gigs that talk about workplace culture. Well, yeah, if you're going somewhere to fulfill someone else's dreams, how much longer? And of course you can find happiness in what you're doing, but like, how long do you have,
Yeah, is it that true happiness? And I kind of want to talk a little bit more about that pivot point in your life if you're open to it, because I think that is a step most will never take. That is not something, or they will hit that rock bottom, but they'll just keep chugging and say, nope, it's fine, I'm fine. And they'll get another rock thrown at them. So how did you have that fortitude, that mental fortitude, the strength to say and look everyone in the eye, this is not right for me? I mean, did it really just come from within? What was that sign or that feeling as you navigated, and how did you support yourself in those months afterwards, especially when it's raw, it's painful, you're moving through a lot, you're changing who you are. Can you just speak a little bit more about that?
When I left the marriage and walked away from that, it was like two separate, but that was probably not the most best way I could have done it. Like I don't think I did an excellent job, but I did it, which was what needed to be done. Like I was drinking. I was not in a great place, but I just knew that what I was doing couldn't work. And I kind of needed to burn out a little more before I kind of came back. So it was May 2019. And then it was October 2019 that I was like, okay, I'm getting my shit together. And I began my journal practice. And I was just like, okay, I don't know what this looks like, but I have, like I've always maintained good production, but I was in an office, one of 70 agents, and then now I'm completely on my own, so I had to sort of just take just a lot of in the moment and just believing that if I put all the pieces together little by little, like all the books I had read, all the business development I had done, because even before I was maybe living the most authentically I could be, I was still reading books. I had a morning routine. Like I knew the stuff I needed to do. It was just like this pull inside of me that was like, you're doing it wrong. Like, so, and then in October 2019 was when I began to do the journal and just sort of be like, I want what is I desire and what I know is coming, and I'm not going to settle for anything less. And then that January, I had written out a letter to my ex-husbands and all of the negative male influence in my life and what I was no longer going to accept and what I was no longer going to take. And I wasn't going to do this anymore. I wasn't going to be this girl anymore. And then I wrote down everything I wanted for my future, what I wanted to do, what I wanted to build, business. And then on a third paper separate, because I had always been like, I need to have a husband, and then I can do this, and then I need to have a husband, and this. Then on a third paper, I said, this is the man that I will stop my life for. This is the one that's there. He's going to be tall. He's going to be fluent in Spanish. He's going to be like, I wrote a lot of stuff down. And I met my husband in April, like 2 months later. And
Wow.
everybody was a little bit like, oh, you're doing it again. And I'm like, okay, like you can really think whatever you want. Like you really have to be okay with just being a shitty loser for a little bit. Like nobody will hurt you. This is America. This is the best place to be poor. Do you know how much resources we have if you like lose your job? Like if you have to be unemployed, do you realize how not scary that is here? You know what like there's this and there's that, but like it's not that bad. It's not that horrible. There's if you run out of actual income, you could be on food stamps and Medicaid and WIC by the end of the day. And if my husband's from Cuba, that doesn't happen. If you don't have money and you just don't eat, like you just have nothing. So really sort of just not being scared of that like ego headspace thing that we've been told, like you would never want to depend and you would never want to do that. I don't know if you've been working since you were 15 and then you're 40 and you are in a hard place and you've been paying taxes for God, how 15 to 40, get some food
Yeah.
stamps, bro. Like, I don't care. Like,
You're hitting on such this big thing, and I'm just full goosebump because I think it's this realization of, holy shit, Megan, you're totally right. But that fear, that mask, that ego status, the mentality of, well, no, but I got the marriage and I got the house and I'm doing what I'm being told. And yet a lot of us still aren't okay. And so I'm so impressed that you were able to say, no, F this, I'm blowing this up. I don't care. And having the courage to then walk your own path and trusting in yourself that, no, this was my list. I manifested this. This feels right. And knowing that it was. And like, look where you are now and how you were feeling. And yes, things aren't, I'm sure, perfect. Nothing is perfect, but you're totally right that like in America, we are so privileged and we do have that support system. No, it's not beautiful and amazing. And it is kind of crappy to feel and have to ask for help. But how about more of us ask for help? I think, and just get on to that space and also just live your authentic way. Like you were in that sales and you saw that this was not feeling right or fueling you. But I think most of us, including myself, like would never ever want to jeopardize or maybe wouldn't make the shift to entrepreneurism or following your heart because it's, yeah, where's the income? Where's the food? What about the status and the way I live? And it's, can you release some of that to allow space to do something, because we can't hold all these balls in the air. And so some things have to drop in order to open into other spaces. So, wow, that's big. Thank you for sharing all of
monkey
that.
bars, right? You can't move across the monkey bars if you keep holding onto the first rung. You have to continue to
Exactly.
let go and move forward. And then I think the biggest mindset shift is competition versus abundance. And
Mm,
competition is just so thick in any business, and especially in my industry in real estate. I'm sure other industries too listening are like, oh yeah. But like you can either compete or you can be abundant. You either believe that there's more than enough for you and everybody else, or you believe that there's one pie and everybody's fighting over it. And that simple mindset shift changes so much because people really aren't after you the way that you think. And there really is more than enough of anybody. I mean, we're in a situation where there's over 2 million agents, licensed real estate agents in Colorado or in the nation. I think like we have a lot of realtors, and all of my agents have sold more this year than they have last year.
Wow.
And people can say that, oh, there's not enough. Okay, yeah, is it harder to sell? Right. There's definitely a difference in the market when interest rates are 2.5, when they're 8. Like I'm not disputing that, but an agent that shows up and works and earnestly believes that they're due and truly wants to take good care of people will build a real estate business in 6 to 9 months. Like if you're showing up and doing the work, it's just going to happen. And that accounts for anything. And just to shy away from competitive language and oh this and oh that, like you want to have, like I still give awards to my agents that will have numbers and blah blah blah, because that's just part of being in business, right? Like I have to know the production, they need to know their GCI, blah blah blah. But there's more than enough for anybody. There's more than enough for me to be a broker. There's more than enough brokers who need me to create a business beyond my wildest dreams, and they're just out there, and I'm going to meet them because I'm doing what I'm doing. And so just shy away from anything that competitive or anything lack, because there is no lack. It's just some fear tactic to keep you where you are.
Yeah. A big mindset shift that helped me was also understanding one, what does abundance mean to you? Like everyone has a different meaning of abundance. For a lot of us, it's external validation. And sometimes you have to uncouple that. But then also knowing abundance isn't just monetary. Yes, it can be, but it's community and it's connection, it's bartering. I've had some of my most amazing connections and things happen because we did an exchange or whatever that was, or someone helped me watch my kids, and no hands of money was exchanged, but just knowing that people are good at their heart, for the most part, are good. And if you can show up in your goodness and trust and work, do the work, show up for yourself, take the action. You don't have to be running all day long. But if you're taking those small right actions, that big things will happen, and trusting the runway. I don't know if you felt this, but a lot of my life, I used to be like, when and how and when is this going to happen? And you just want that immediate shift and that immediate reaction. But it's like, no, you have to trust that there is a runway and things are coming together and you are changing, and people will be planted right in that perfect timing as they are needed.
You either believe life happens to you or for you. So you can take the things that come up as like, oh no, or you can just be like, all right, this is my next challenge. Like, I feel like we all played video
Yes.
games at some point when we were kids. Like, isn't that the point of like literally every video game? It's like you never go straight to the end, right? Like you always have all these extra things you have to do, and the character has to go through whatever and solve these problems. And that's just, and we have this expectation that life's always going to be the same. We get married, we live happily ever after. We get a job, we make a lot of money, and we're done. Like that's not the way it works. Everything in life changes. Everything grows. Everything has seasons. Everything's in waves. Nothing is consistent. Not the water, not the air. Like everything's moving and shifting and changing. So I think when we have the expectation that my life will move and change and shift many times from my death to my birth to my death, like it's just going to change and shift, and I'm here for it, is a really huge place to be, because none of this doesn't matter. Like you always see those really sad memes. Oh, if you died today, your boss wouldn't care. They'd continue to move on. Yeah, because the machine must continue to go. But don't use that as like oh, it's so sad. Like then don't be
Yes.
so tied to it. If somebody's really gonna, if that's the way it works, don't take offense to it. It just is, right? Nothing is good or bad. Just take it and move on and continue to move forward. Because if you're not getting something that you want, there's something stuck there. You know what I mean? Like you
Mhm.
gotta just, and sometimes, you gotta just burn it all down and start over.
Yes, like use it as that fuel to keep going and continue on. And I feel like you're right on that track with me of like that personal discovery and self-growth and those things, because it is true. It's the only constant I've ever learned is accept the challenge, accept the chaos, accept the season, and how do you thrive in this moment? And so I'm curious, what are some of your personal or professional development focuses that help you approach this journey and this mindset and this kind of willingness to, yes, I'll stumble or fall, but I'll always improve. I'll get back up and keep going. You said journaling a lot too. So you can share more about that or anything else.
I do the journal. I'm a big believer in morning routines. Before I had kids and when I was just a realtor and we could wake up, I would wake up at 4 and I would have a really extensive morning routine. I would do a journal, I would do meditation, I would work out. And that was when I was making the most money. Like obviously it works. I had the highest when I was in production sales wise. I now have like my morning routine now is journal, a few minutes of meditation, and then I read a chapter of a book. In 2020, when I quit smoking cigarettes in January, and then I quit drinking in March. I read like 70 books that year. So I was doing a lot of smoking and drinking. So that
Wow.
was my, um, so and it's interesting. It takes a few years for it to sort of come out. Like you read it and you put it into your brain, and then it's like those things you do in your elementary school where you like put the numbers in the machine and the machine pops it out. Like we're in the machine and it just takes a little while for the stuff you read to pop out. So I keep my like I don't read horror. I don't watch scary things. I don't deal with like if it's negative, I just don't want to give it power. And some of that's my 7, and some of that is a lot like we create our own realities, and I don't want to have an anxious, like sometimes we'll watch Dateline or whatever at night, but
Yeah.
those sort like I'm not like a like I can't like handle it, but
It's a
like I
choice. It is a choice that you're making.
I'm going to
Mhm.
read about business. I'm going to read about, I'm reading A Happy Pocket Full of Money right now. Like that's, like just every morning I read about money and abundance and wealth and how you can bring that closer to you. And if I read a chapter of that every day, I'm going to be better about manifesting money every day. Jeff Olson calls it the power of the slight edge, right? Like just the minute something easy to do, something easy not to do, but doing the thing is what gives you that edge and continues to push that snowball forward. And it's also not every day. I think a lot of things we're run by a really masculine sort of energy. Like the system that is now the overarching system is very, very masculine focused. And you say that and people look at you like you're weird, but it's true because masculine energy is very consistent. It's always the same. Wake up, work out every day. And feminine energy is not the same. You need the masculine and the feminine to come together, and that's the most power. But realizing that I am a female entrepreneur and that holding myself to the standards of I will do the same thing every day, other than like I can journal, right? No matter where I'm at. Like that's something I can do every day. But I'm not going to go run 10 miles a day. I
Mhm.
am not built that way. I'm sure there would be some health benefits, but like I have differences in when I'm in, like obviously I'm pregnant right now, so like my feminine energy is different now. When I'm in my cycle, like we just understand who you are and what you do. So I really take care of myself first, because I realize now that I can't pour out, because if part of the reason everything got burned to the ground was because I was so burnt out. I didn't have the tools and the capacity to make good adult decisions. I wish I could tell you that I left my husband and got an apartment and focused and meditated and I just did so good. And no, 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 no. I was a mess. It was horrible, horribly abusive, horrible relationship. Like I fell down the stairs a few times before
Mhm.
I sort of had to rebuild it. But that was because I didn't have any, you know, I didn't have any energy in me. So, realize what you need to and feed yourself first, just like you can't put the mask on someone else until you have it on your own face.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Speaking of, I'm like, since you're so well read on abundance and manifesting money and you were right in there, what would be your like top 2 tips, I'd say, to someone who is trying to get in this, or maybe I'm like, even myself, who is, I can feel it. I'm bringing it forward. This is coming and I'm focusing, but like, what have you learned and had to really understand, or some big nugget things that we can take and digest and maybe apply to our life in this realm?
I really love about this book I'm reading now because it talks about how it's already now. Everything's
Okay.
now. There's multiple situations and anything is possible, which is true. You can trace that biblically. There's a lot of other, this isn't the only book that says that, right? Like all the other religions say this. Um, and realizing that it's now, and if it's not here yet, it doesn't mean it's not on its way. And it's not necessarily a no, it's more like a not yet, because there have been a lot of things that I thought I had lost when I had gone through my divorces or whatever, that I have like gained back. Like when I married my first husband 10 years ago, we had 2 kittens, and then I ended up losing a bunch of cats in our divorce and stuff, 2 little black kittens. We move here and we get 2 black cats that are brother and sister, basically just like a glitch in the matrix. Like I'm like, oh my god, like these cats are here now. um and like I couldn't, it's just not if you have a desire, it's coming. And remember that time is also made of the system. Like we are not time is not our construct, right? Like that's just where we live. So don't just realize that it's there now, and realize that you really are what you believe. Like you can say these things, you can write the notes all you want, but you're writing in the journal to change your beliefs. So
Mm-hmm.
don't be actively fighting those beliefs. Like be open to the fact that you could, you could be wrong, but you're still right for what you want, right? Like you can have your desires, what you want, the path to get there, it could not be true, right? I mean, I didn't think that it was going to take this. I thought I was going to have a, like I said, I was going to get into real estate, and I was going to make $1 million the first 2 years, and I was going to open my brokerage, and then I was going to have 87 agents working for me. Like, just not the path. That's fine. But I'm still a managing broker, and that's the desire of my heart. And then that's what's going to continue to grow, that way. And like I said, most companies don't have all their agents up. Most companies don't have 50% of their agents because they're 1099. So I can't tell them what to do. Half of my agents show up to classes. Like that's unheard of. Usually it's about 10% of an office will really be involved with the culture and the leadership. So those are the little things that, you just kind of look at it, and don't let that competition mindset, time, oh, we got to do this and finish this, and just it'll happen when it happens. You're exactly where you need to be if you're doing the right thing. Now, still learn, right? Like if you bomb a sales call, how could I have made that better? How could we do this? Like we still work through those things together, but there's no shame in the fact that you didn't close that deal or you didn't do well at that appointment, because you're just learning how to do the next one that's already yours. Like it's on its way. You have people who are waiting to buy houses with you, who are in your community and your people, and you just need to go out there and find them and be kind and open and answer their questions.
Yeah.
So
Don't let those setbacks stop you from pursuing what you're really wanting to go for, because you're going to have setbacks. Things are not going to go well, but it's how you
that's how you
react.
learn. How are
Yes.
you, if you go in and you kill every appointment, you're never going to learn how to handle an objection.
Yep.
It
Yes.
goes. Like you need to have those people to teach you and to toughen you up a little bit, and you'll live. And people's opinions don't matter. They don't matter at all.
They
Your mom's
don't.
opinion doesn't effing matter. Your dad's opinion doesn't matter. Your husband's opinion, a little bit, like
Right.
5%. My head, because here's the thing, it does, like, and of course, I'm not like go out and do bad
No,
things,
I
but
know what you're saying. Yes. We're
like,
here for it.
yeah, like there have been some times where I'm like, this is what I think, and it needs to, like you should have a relationship where you can come and be like, I'm not worried about hurting your feelings. This is what needs to happen, right? Like you can't let other people's opinions and situations get in the way of like, okay, what's going on? Like as long as you're not actively hurting anybody, you do what you want. We're only here one time. You can literally do anything you want. And like I said, we're in this system of America. The fact that we have the citizenship, our birth certificates, like our social security numbers, like, oh my God, those are huge, powerful things. We have people come from all over the world who haven't had any of that, and they can start multi-million-dollar businesses. Like you can too. People sell MLM shampoo and make hundreds of thousands of dollars. People sell leggings online. Like people
Mm-hmm.
do crazy shit to make money. Do most people who get into that make a ton of money? No, because it's a mindset shift to have to sell things to people from your phone. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but there's just an infinite way to create what you want, and you already know what you need to do to create your life because you already have your passions. I mean, hell, I was selling rocks in 5th grade at another private school in Parker that I had painted. And then this jerk named Dominic, and if you hear me talk about this, just know you've traumatized me because I'm still talking about it. He dumped them all in the dumpster, and he took my little box and everything. Jerk. Like I can't even deal with a Dominic anymore. I'm like, I don't trust them. But like I have been selling things, you know what I mean? And since I was a kid. So you already kind of know the path you need to go. You just sort of walk to where it feels appropriate. And it's hard to drown out the voices of the other opinions and listen to yourself, right? You can't listen to a bunch, just like we don't listen to 3 radio stations at one time. That would be ridiculous. Like, so don't do that with your head. Like choose the voices you're going to listen to, choose the ones that you feed.
Yes. Oh, I love this. I love this so much. You're totally right. Yes. Ride your wave. Like get on your wave and just ride your wave. Stop worrying about everyone else's and how they're getting up and what they're doing. Like be in your lane, be in your zone, head down, go for it. People will come and continue. And while we're kind of talking about this, I'm curious how motherhood has shifted, because I know that's a big journey that you're currently under with your brewing your second one in your belly. And your first one's the same age as my youngest. They're a day apart. So just about 14 months. Gosh,
Yep.
that has gone fast. How do you integrate all this? I'm like, where do I want to start? Maybe what has this motherhood journey been like? And what are some of those big ahas that it's led you?
I thought that I was going to get more done. I have had to learn again more of the, I've had to learn a lot of delegating. I've got an awesome agents. I seriously like all of them. I really feel like I can really lean into them. What if I need help, like to do this, or can you throw a lockbox on here? Can you go visit this property? Can you show these for me? And I tend to split my deals with them often because I've had to reach out for help a lot there. I had these really high expectations on myself that really pushed me into some intense postpartum depression ickiness at the end because I was like, I need to get all this done. I need to do this and I need to have a baby. And after kind of walking through that, I just realized, like I said, just more of like the time. I don't need to worry about the time. It's going to happen. Everything's okay. I'm so blessed. I'm so amazed at like I have a house. I've made double mortgage payments not
Wow.
double the total amount, but I've added an additional principal, which because it's the new mortgage, it's only a few $100, but like I
Yes.
have technically like hacked off twice as many mortgage payments. I've always been able to pay my car. I don't need to have these crazy over the top expectations for myself has been the first shift. And then the second shift has been I bring my daughter everywhere and I plan on bringing both my kids and it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve in this toddler years, but that's how they learn. And I think families should be staying together. I don't think families should be separated the way that they are. I think the way that it's set up is not the best way to strengthen families. To have kids go to school and to have parents go to work and one goes to work, one stays home, or even both go to work. I think that families should come together and should learn how to do everything because then you have a bunch of kids who can't, who you got boys who don't know how to do housework and girls who don't know how to work. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's
Hmm.
created a lot of things that the conspiracy theorist in me thinks might be on purpose. But I take Vivi to work with me. She comes like she'll come to the chamber. We do chamber meetings every Wednesday. So we'll go do that tomorrow. She wears her things. We watch Miss Rachel. We eat Fruit Loops. She's not perfect. When I go to CE classes, my husband and I oftentimes one of us really takes the class and takes notes, and the other one kind of hooks us up. But I want to normalize kids being around work. And we need to be the change, right? Like we can't just sit here and be like, oh, I don't want to put my kid in daycare. Like you have to not put your kid in daycare and show up in workplaces. And we showed up to class like last month and they were like, are you coming in here? I'm like, yep. Like, here we are. And as long as I'm not a jerk about it, like if she makes noise, we're out. Like I'm not here to disrupt anybody. But she's not here and she doesn't hurt anybody either. It doesn't hurt to have a little kid sitting there eating snacks and with their headphones on while their parents are watching something. It doesn't hurt the kid to see their mom show houses or their dad go to listing appointments. It doesn't hurt their kid to see and understand that you need to do stuff to get things back, right? Because no matter what the dollar is, like you would need to do something for value in any society, right? So to show our children this is what I do and these are my skills, I think is huge. And I do plan on homeschooling as well once we get to about that age. I've got a few years obviously ahead of me, but my mom worked. She would do various things. She didn't have a business or anything when we were growing up, but I do remember when we were homeschooled, we would take our stuff to, she'd go work. She worked at like some warehouse, I think, that was like for homeless people or something. And it was in California. But I remember doing my math homework in the warehouse or my math and, pulling up my little DVD of my instructor at the time. And I think that that's really important because the school years just really, you have nothing else in your life that mimics school years other than working for a large corporation that right now is not paying you very well. And that truly at the end of the day doesn't care. So I want my kids to not want that. I want my kids to want to do things that bring them, not necessarily not like all of it's roses, right? Like you still have to work. There's still the beauty in doing hard things. But yeah, that's been the biggest change is that I've been taking her around and people, it's been interesting because I'm getting, as I do get some looks, people are like, they're excited. They're like, oh my God, you bring your baby. I'm like, yeah, I don't, we haven't been separated for like longer than a few
Ever.
hours.
It doesn't need to.
And it's great. And we'll see, hopefully we're not listening to this 20 years from now. And, I've been all wrong, but I don't think I am, like the more I tend to get closer to how it feels naturally, the simpler and easier things seem to sort of go, right? When I'm not fighting nature.
Yes, I can definitely relate to that and agree. I made it 18 months postpartum with my daughter, and that was like incredible. And my husband had quit his job, so he was full stay-at-home dad because we had the same like, holy moly, we can't do this. This feels so wrong. And I handed in my resignation letter. I said I was done. I gave my 2 weeks, and it worked out that I got a part-time remote position out of it. And I'm full-time now again, but I'm still remote. And that is like, if you want me, this is what I need, because I need to be here with my family, to have breakfast with them, to assess their needs, to go for a walk with them, but then also show up at my work. And so this integration piece of showing that, yeah, mom can have her life and do this, but you can still be a part of it. And we don't have to be so separate. And I am still not in that place. Like, I have a lot more work to do to get to a point where I would feel even better being able to have more of that balance. But for right now, this is what we have to do, and that's okay. But so I love hearing that you're shifting the mold. So am I. Like, I remember 2020 changed the game for me, at least, when I had been remote 3 years and then everyone had to come home and be with their child. And I don't think a lot of people handled it very well, but it showed how I think a lot of we are hustling, we are pushing, we are moving way too fast, way too strong in the wrong direction. This is my opinion, and this is how I have felt, and I think how you are feeling. And so we're at least trying. I think I can commend us to us of, we don't know how this is going to turn out, but we are trying, and we are listening to what that feels inside to say, no, we want to have our children with us as they're raised. We want them to not know what it's like without mom. And there's so much research out there behind like those first 5 to 7 years, mother and child should be together always, like that connection and that time to play and be a child and just watch something and hang out and not, when's the alarm? Where do we have to go next? I mean, there's so much I could go into that. So I think thank you for breaking the mold is what I can say, is thank you for saying, yeah, my baby's with me. This is normal, normalizing that to be a professional doesn't mean you have to cut motherhood out. And that is what I'm trying to integrate too, and learn how do we have these hats of creative entrepreneur and mother and doer and professional, and feel like there is a stitching and a weaving that can happen. But I think that also comes with community too, and people. But we have to set the tone to find those right people who get it and are here for it. And so a little bit more about motherhood. I'm curious what personally too has that journey intuitively or transformational. I feel like my kids were such big catalysts for me. Did you have any of that experience?
I I lost a baby when I was 19. I didn't mean to get pregnant at 19, and I ended up having a miscarriage, which was tough because nobody knew I was pregnant to begin with. And then like you're 19, right? It's not like people are like, oh, I'm so sorry, not like you're married, whatever. So when my daughter finally did arrive, I felt just so like overwhelmed with gratitude, because I had felt like I had lost that for 10 years. Like, and that was something huge that I had been like, oh, not for me, I'm not allowed. And then like, it was just like sort of this shift, like, oh no, like it was just a not yet, and the intense love you feel for your children is just such a huge driving force for me. And I just sort of like lean into that now. And just like I now have someone watching me at all times, and what I create now is not just for my enjoyment, it's also for her future and their other futures. And we talk a lot about privilege, and there obviously people have different levels of what they have privilege wise, and not everybody is the same, right? I'm not here to say that everybody has the same shot, because they don't. That's just a fact. But I think if you can sort of embrace the role that you're in, like we love Duck Dynasty, so I like to use Duck Dynasty as an example. Phil and Kay were really, really poor. Phil and Kay didn't have any education. They lived in the swamps of Louisiana, like hillbilly hicks, like you wouldn't believe. But if you knew them 40 years ago, they were different than they were now. But now Phil and Kay have raised their children. They have raised them in a certain faith. They have raised them in the business. They have raised them with certain things. So now that third generation, the Sadie Roberts and the John Luke, that are now sort of our age, a little bit younger than us, starting to have kids and stuff. Do those kids and those people have more connections than we do? They have more money. They have more kids. But that's just because of the work that Phil and Kay had, but they had nothing. So why are we so upset and comparing ourselves to Sadie and John Luke when we might be the Phil and Kay of our generation, right? Like, okay, yeah, you didn't have that childhood that you thought you had, but you are the matriarch. You were the top. So this is just your training, and you'll see, because they still live life. Their shit's paid off. They've got their stuff. All Phil wants to do is hunt and do, redneck Louisiana things. And that's what he does. You know what I mean? They have their podcast. Like he's been able to do that. So yes, the privilege is different if you compare Sadie to her other counterparts, but because she is coasting on the work from her father and grandfather. in some degrees, and she still does her own thing. Not that she doesn't work on whatever I don't even really know what she's working on, but that's the only family I can think of that most people understand with like the three generations. So, realizing that she is my second generation, right? Like this is the first generation of the family unity. This is the first generation of the spiritual teachings that I want to be teaching. This is the first generation of my business. Like I shouldn't be comparing myself to somebody whose dad has been in real estate for 20 years. We're not the same. They have a different life than I do. My dad wasn't in real estate. He was a cop. He taught me nothing about business. I've had to kind of build this on my own, which is fine. So yeah, that's been the biggest thing. And to just sort of see that and see her and like the realization that God willing, she'll live longer than me. So she will have years and years longer than I will when I'm not even here to hopefully like leave the legacy, and keeping you in focus on what do I want her to focus on, right? It's been a huge focusing tool for me versus before when money was freedom and money was a vacation, money was this. Now it's just a deeper reason. It's almost added more fuel to my fire.
Yes. And I love the three generation piece. And you're so right, because I can look at my dad and what he created, and he allowed us to have the freedom to say, yeah, now you can expand and create or do what you want. But he was still very linear. I'd say my parents were like that first in the generation to move away from home, to get a college degree. And so that was what they touted as this is going to make you queen, and this is what you need to do. And I will say I've learned so much. Like I'm grateful for my path. I feel very privileged. I mean, but it came with a lot of debt. It came with a lot of struggle and strife and confusing and an inability to know who I am. And so I think you're totally right that can we plant ourselves here and say, yes, we had whatever came before us, but we get to build now our life. And maybe we are the first or the third, or, we're all in different spots, but even having the realization of checking in and going, what am I really wanting to create? And that legacy piece is so core to my being as well, especially with children of now this isn't for me. This is for them too. This is to set them up and have them have a different foundation than I got. And based on how it feels right for me and how it feels right for you and your family. I think that is all we can do and do our best to do that. But a lot has to change societally, structurally to have healthy, glowing, harmonious humans and families. Like I feel like the family system's being attacked. Work does not support the family very well. It's getting better. I will say it is incrementally, not everywhere, but at least in my realm, it's getting better. But I think that's because again, you and I have changed our mindset, have changed the shift, have taken action to say yes or no. And so our world around us starts to reflect that. And we're seeing that. And I think for both of us, the home is our heart in a way that I can tell that with you. And so can you talk more about your home setting? Like you said, you were in the San Luis Valley, which I love. Our eyes are on Pagosa at some point, or maybe down there. I don't know what's coming next, but homestead's definitely in our future. So how has that home supported you? And what has led to you creating this beautiful homestead and home?
We always wanted to be, I wanted on my list of what I was going to do was a self-sustaining lifestyle. So that was on both lists, the dude list and then my future list. So I was doing
Okay.
that. When we met, we rented a place in Longmont. And then I didn't pay, I paid more taxes than I probably would have wanted to in order to get qualified for a house. But we weren't qualified for as much as we thought we were going to be. And so people were probably assuming we were going to get a townhome and get rid of the animals. And that was the opposite. So my brokerage has always been pretty remote. Like we have Zoom and we meet on the computer. So we just sort of expanded our search, and we love the San Luis Valley. We've visited, you got the Great Sand Dunes, you've got, it's huge. It goes all the way down into New Mexico. It's completely surrounded by mountains. It's paradise. And so we ended up finding a farm here. It's a small house. It's only 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom. It's on 9 acres. We paid like a little over 300,000 for it, which is unheard of in Colorado real estate market.
Yes. Wow.
Our
That's amazing.
well, already qualified or already approved for 2 additional dwellings, so I can have 3 houses. So our house is like I like to put things up on the walls and things like that, but our house is very much just, it's not our forever home. And that dream's kind of been gone since houses are no longer $50,000. Like you don't move into your dream home first. It's just not the way it works anymore. So I was looking for a place that we could just build equity and build wealth. So our goal here is to build 2 more houses, and then we'll rent all 3 of them and then use those income to purchase another house, probably similar right? It'll probably be around the fours for another 10-acre piece with an artesian well. So that's sort of our plan. But right now it's just we've got a kid room in our room and in our office. And I like to do little things to make it feel like I've got candles lit right now, and just the sort of little in the moment. But I don't put a ton into, like, I should probably be neater than I am. And but my home is very cozy, and I love the location of it. But I'm very grateful for the, like, understanding it's not my forever home. Like when we would move when I was younger, my mom would be like, I'll be here till I die. And she didn't, she's moved around a bunch of stuff, and just appreciating the time. The home in Longmont was really special to us. We got married at that farm. We buried a couple dogs at that farm. I birthed my baby at that farm. So I just love where your home is, you know what I mean? Even if it's not totally perfect yet. But I love this home. It's got my name on it. I pay down the equity every month. I had 30,000 in equity when we bought it. So I love this house. As a real estate professional, this is a good one. But there's nothing specifically beautiful, just I've got my pictures on the walls, and we repainted and things. And we'll probably do that like every few years for the next 5 or so years, and go from there.
Yeah. And you said you like to be self-sustaining. Can you speak on that more of what is that drive, or what are you doing now to help you do that?
It's just better. We started eating fresh food. We started with our own eggs, chicken and duck eggs. And then, like, you just notice how much better you feel when you're not eating crap. We also, when we lived in Longmont, we lived in the middle of a 100-acre farm that was using glyphosates and GMOs, and it killed everything.
Oof.
We had the first year that he didn't use the chemicals. We had eight apple trees in the apple orchard. And we had so many apples that the branches were literally breaking. Like, you saw us, we were giving you apples. We had apples coming out of everywhere. The next year when he sprayed, we didn't get a single apple. So
Oh,
it killed everything, killed our acre garden. I had some complications when I was having my baby, and I think it was from getting sprayed with the glyphosates, is my honestly what my intuition's telling me. So we see, sort of being front row for that. And they're spraying the corn and the beets, which are the basis of everything. Corn
yes.
syrup is in everything. Sugar beets are government subsidized thing. So big anything, big farm, big pharma, big medical, big is not good. Anyway,
Mhm.
um,
I'm
so
gonna
seeing
have to
some
have you back on,
benefits,
Megan, because I'm
like,
like, we could go there on so many of these
oh,
topics.
like, just not like, I don't like big systems. Can you tell? And so we knew when we moved, when we were no longer renting, we wanted to do goats. So now we have goats that are milk. We do goat for meat. We do chicken and duck for meat as well. We do eggs. And then we will get our garden going for this year. We moved in May this year, and I was like, we'll get a garden going. No, we didn't. We didn't do. I survived and worked and raised my daughter, and that's all I needed to do. But we'll have a garden. My husband is incredible. He can grow anything. He can grow cactus. He can grow beans. He can grow squash. Like, he is so good at that. So I'm very excited. So this fall, when I have both the babies, I told him, I'm like, we're going to be loaded, but we're not so self-sustaining right now because the sheep and the goats are all pregnant, so we don't have any milk right now. The chickens aren't liking the light, so we don't have any eggs. So right now they're just kind of expensive dogs, but they will
Yes.
be self-sustaining once they start having their babies and laying eggs again.
Right. And I learned that too. We used to get raw goat milk for a while, and it was this weird mind shift that they're like, yeah, there's like 6 months where they don't have milk. They like are dried up, or they're in between and they have to wait to get pregnant. And so you won't have milk. And it just blew my mind. It was such a stupid, but showed the disconnection of life, right? Of my mind didn't even think about that because I just have milk at the store all year round. So there must just
Right.
be milk always. And like, I'm a nursing mom. I should get this. But yeah. Oh, it's so fascinating when you start living with the land, like the things that you learn and the cycles that you have. And before we move into wild heart questions to close this out, I have one last thing I want to ask you, which is you reference a quote on one of your social media pages, which is be who you needed when you were younger. And what would you say now to your younger self, or even your daughter? When you look back, what would you have to say?
I would say it's just going to be okay. Like, it's just going to be okay. I got that quote when my parents and I didn't live with my parents for the last part of my high school career. And I felt very isolated and very, very alone. And up in South Dakota, that's why I graduated a year and a half early. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have no one to sit with. They would make Facebook groups about how much they hated me. Like, it was very, very rough. And so I just remember I had one lady who was awesome, who was sort of like, she was in her 30s. And when I was, 17 at the time. So she was pretty, like, she was just like a friend and a sister. And I remember like be who you needed when you were younger. And so I always sort of wanted to emanate that. And if I had to tell myself something in those moments when I just didn't even know what the world was going to look like, but I was already so sad and felt so separated, it just stay in the moment. Like things do get better. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
these are just hard seasons. Like bad things don't happen to bad people. That's just not how it works. You know what I mean? And everything that you're given is just to help catapult you to that next level. Like it's just to strengthen you. It's just to teach you. It's just like notice the lessons instead of focusing on the hurt so much, you know? Because like my grandfather who I lived with in South Dakota, it was so hard to live there, and how I felt I was treated was so, like I said, so detrimental. I graduated a year and a half early, and it was so hard to be there and in that house, and I hated all of it. And I put my, you know, cap and gown up in front of the window. So when I woke up every morning, that was the first thing I saw. So I would get out of bed and go to school. And I was working, I worked 2 jobs. But now that my grandfather passed in January, and my dad is married to somebody who doesn't, has caused, like, there's some significant estrangement with that family, I would go back and hang out with my grandparents and watch some NCIS and eat popcorn with seasoned salt, like one more time, even though that part of my life was so much turmoil. And like I could even cry now. I'm almost 30 and I could cry about how mean these kids were to me in high school. Like it was
Oh.
bad. Now I see the beauty in those moments. And so I would tell myself, and I will tell my daughter and my son, to just enjoy. There are always really beautiful, special moments, even when you're in these seasons of just hell.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, that's hard to lose. But again, I think loss and grief shows this whole other side of life that you don't see until you've gone through it. So that's a really good reminder. Thank you. And for the last couple questions, I always ask my guests, how do you live wildly currently?
Oh man, I have not sought a doctor for either of my pregnancies. That's how I've been wildly. I'm very, very natural. We don't pasteurize our milk. We like to live off the land. We like to camp. We like to, like I said, if I need a medical professional, which I did, I had complications with my other birth. Like I did need to seek out a doctor for
Mhm.
that one. That's how I live mostly wildly. Is I am the deciding factor on my life and not another outsource. I don't ask my doctor, I don't ask my person, I don't ask this. I check in with myself, and if I need to get information, right, like if I myself doesn't have information, I'll go do some
Mhm.
research or whatever. But how I live wildly is just tapping into that intuition and
I
making
love
those.
it. That's big. I think it's such an empowering move, and especially in birth. And I'm like, oh, that's again, huge other topic that I'm so fascinated. And I might have to, again, have you back on to get into some of these other topics because I think it's big and more people need to hear the other side of the possibilities that birth can be and how beautiful and strong you are as a birthing human. So, next question would be who or what currently inspires you?
Wow, what currently inspires me? My daughter.
Mhm.
She's, yeah, definitely my daughter. And my son too, but I haven't quite met him yet, but he's, you know.
Yes. Kids are so big. So, yes, that makes sense. You are in the thick of early motherhood, and children are so inspirational, especially our 14-month-olds. They're so cute
I
and
love
so
them.
fun and
Yep.
crazy and a lot of work,
Yes.
but oh, it just lights your heart up. So, yes, I love that. And to close this out, can you tell us about your work? I know you have your Motion Homes group, but where people can find you and how they can look you up.
Yeah, my website is motionhomesgroup.com. I'm Megan Bello on Facebook. There's Motion Homes Group on Facebook. I'm also launching a podcast of my own. It will be launching sometime mid-January. It's called The Real Estate Den, and I have 2 to 3 real estate professionals, title companies, insurance people, agents from all walks of life. And we sort of have a little open forum, and we talk about what's working, what's not working, and then just sort of industry stuff. So if you're thinking about getting into the business, or if you're in the business, it's just a really good way to sort of tune into sort of the shop talk and hear what's kind of going on. So that's my main project. And then if you are a licensed real estate agent in the state of Colorado, I'll be teaching you CE courses. So you might see me there, but probably not.
Oh, I love it, Megan. Thank you. I'll have all her information linked in the show notes. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for sharing your heart and just being you because you are leading a new generation into their hearts and into their own way and in your own way. So that's commendable and amazing. And it's just been so fun to reconnect with you.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for listening to the Live Wildly podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. It goes a long way to helping gain new listeners and fills my heart to see your reviews every time it comes through. It just keeps me inspired and going on this journey. And if you'd like to learn more or follow Olivia further, you can check me out at www.olivia-ashley.com. And just there's a lot there that you can check out, and you can learn more about the podcast episodes. You can also follow along on Instagram at Wildly Olivia or at Live Wildly Podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate all of you listeners, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks again.